Hello, everybody. It is 2:02 p.m. Central Time on the 27th of February, 2021. It's Saturday here in the United States. End of the month already. Getting ready to go into March. Just a little bit more to go. Hope you're doing well. We are here to talk about seismic events. Yet once again, still have my morning voice going, guys. I was up to like 5 a.m. Central Time. So I just woke up, late afternoon. Okay, so we're here to talk about the earthquakes which have struck. And a lot of people contacting me. We'll just start off here, actually, at Iceland to bring you up to speed. Big time swarming going on the mid-Atlantic ridge going up through Iceland, as well as threes going down to our letter X and a 5 that hit a day and a half ago out here as well, down here again where the letter X is. I don't know what's going on with that. Seems like the USGS may have omitted that quake, but big time movement going on in Iceland. Now, that being mentioned, we'll get into why that's going on. We have to start over here in the West Pacific. For our new viewers, our letter Ds are where deep earthquakes are expected to happen. We have a few letter Ds around the planet, up here by Japan, and all the way across over here in the Chile-Argentina border region. And you'll see the earthquakes that are raised high off the globe. Those are deep earthquakes. The higher they are off the planet, deeper they are into the earth. And we have a deep 5.6. This one very far down below the plates, 553 kilometers down below. And what I think is happening, I show this in almost every update. Down below the plates, I think something like this is going on, coming up out of the mantle, the magma, going up into the asthenosphere and the underside of the plate. And the asthenosphere is just a complex term to describe the area underneath the more rigid, solid plate. So hammering action there, and then we'll look at this sideways, and it's like a stair step, like coming up from a basement. Or think of this like going from a basement up to the upper floors. This is taking stair step up and going down into the southern part of South New Zealand. Let me show you the plate boundary here and explain it like this. So again, if this is the basement and we're taking our steps up, we're going up to the first floor, if you will, and that's right where the line of earthquakes go, and it's about the same size. So we're starting out with 4.7, 4.8 up to the north, then going to 4.3, then going to 4.7 to 4.8, then going to 4.0. Going to the west, we have a big open silent zone in the past 48 hours. Now, this is the spot right here where we're watching for an extremely large earthquake to strike. We have 1 day left to go in the 10-day watch, and this new deep activity just came in this morning in the past 24 hours. So, new deep earthquakes means shallower, larger earthquakes do. And this is the spot where we're watching for something up to 8.0, but we're down to the last day. And when we get down to the last day, my eyebrows start to raise a little bit. Am I wrong, or are we just taking a little bit longer than normal? Well, going out in all directions, going over to the west, 5.3, going over to the east, 5.2, it's all the same sized activity spreading out across thousands of miles, where this in the middle is the spot where we expect the big movement to take place. Going to the west, 5s and 5.5, or well, now 5.4 downgrade. Going up across into south of Guam, here's our 5, right at the north tip of Guam. I talked about that in my last update. But since then, the halfway point between Guam and Philippines, or Guam and Indonesia, let me show it to you on the map here. Halfway point between this little speck of a dot, that's Guam, and down here is Indonesia. The halfway point has now been filled in at Palau, which is somewhat more rare. We don't see much activity down here on the south side in between the two. So the middle point was filled in, again at Palau, right here in the middle, in between our two other 5s. Do you see how the rings overlap on that? Again, we have a darker colored red 5 up here on the northeast side and a lighter colored 5 down on the south side, and that middle point was filled in. Same with up to the north. The same distribution took place. 4.8 going up the Izu Ridge, 4.3 going up the Kyushu going up to Kyushu. I'm sorry, the Ryukyu Islands going up to Kyushu. And then here on the east side of the coast of Japan, all the way up into the Kuril Islands. And it's all in the same magnitude range. 4.8, 4.9. Down to the south, 4.8, 4.9. Further down to the south, 5.0. But really, it's a spread going around both sides of the bend of the plate boundaries. This way and this way. Reconverging on the coast of Japan, which did get hit right next to the coast of Tokyo yesterday. But we're still swarming from that 7 from this past week. So, recapping, new deep earthquakes hammering in on the underside of the plate. Going down across New Zealand, North Island and South Island. North Island getting hit in the middle right next to Taupo Volcano with that 4.8. Equal distribution of 5s, we talked about that in the last update. Going all the way around Antarctica. Aussies, guys, you started to move over here on the western coast of Australia. Actually, we'll call that the continental shelf, 3.1. We are south of Exmouth, which is the big VLF station up here right at this pinnacle tip, but I don't think it's related to that. This is where that weird S-shaped radar signal came in. You guys remember that from a few years ago? Whenever I see activity going down the western coast of Australia, and I see activity going around the Indo-Australian plate as a whole, let me show you the Indo-Australian plate. Here it is, Indo-Australian, the Indo-Australian plate, and earthquakes going all the way around the outside edge. Well, wouldn't this be the direct middle of it? Wouldn't you call that pretty much the middle? You could say the middle is a little bit further out to the west, but that's the rough middle point of the plate where that 3 just struck. So really, I think what's going on here is the Indo-Australian plate is displacing. The middle is now starting to displace. So that means Central Australia might see a more rare, larger earthquake that's, well, I say rare because normally the earthquake activity comes in from the northwest up here where the arrow is. We get like a little warning letting us know something's coming in from the northwest when these deep earthquakes hammer in up here on the north side. That's not taking place now. It looks like more like the whole plate is shifting, and the middle point will compensate. So we might not get an earthquake up off the coast this time. Might just straight strike in the middle of the plate. Again, we're moving on the western middle, so wouldn't we move in the middle, and on the eastern middle? All the way across the center of the plate. I would also expect out in the middle of the Indo-Australian plate here where our arrow is. And again, let's just show you where that is on the USGS map. Right out here where they have nothing. Notice they don't have anything out there. But you can see it. This is the Indo-Australian plate boundary. It broke apart back in 2012. 2 8-point-something earthquakes, I want to say 8.3 and 8.5, struck back-to-back hours apart, hundreds of miles apart, down this. So why don't they have anything there on their map? It's just too weird. That is the plate boundary, by the way, the Indo-Australian plate boundary, going out into the middle of the plate. But again, I don't know why they don't have anything marked there. Now let's go over to Europe. Check this out. An equal spacing from Myanmar all the way over to the tip of our arrow at Afghanistan. And we're dealing with, again, 4.5s and 4.9s that were put into the plate. Let's show it to you where it came in, like a road going into Myanmar and then going to the west, going over to Afghanistan. And that's the spread that the earthquakes took. And it just took a little bit of a step down from 4.9 and 4.5, going down to 4.3 and 4.2. Over to the west, Europe. Several earthquakes broke out across Croatia. Getting messages from people that they're getting worried. Well, we are about in the magnitude we were looking for. We're looking for this to go back up to 5, and it came in at 4.3 to 4.4. So a half magnitude, let's just say, under expected. That same under expected came in down in the Aegean Sea. And the Aegean Sea is in between Turkey and Greece, right here. And it was mid-range 4s. We were looking for mid-range 5s. So 1 magnitude under across the board in Central Europe. Meanwhile, those 5s went out to the west and went out all the way to the Azores and all the way up to Iceland. Again, I don't know what happened to that earthquake from a day and a half ago, guys. It's really making me wonder. Again, I've got the 7-day feed turned on. What's up with the USGS ignoring 5.0 earthquakes out here where the letter X is? Let me get a sip of my drink. Oh boy, okay. Still waking up, guys. Still waking up. Okay, across the Pacific Plate, we go over into Central and South. Oh, by the way, one more thing about Europe. This spread that went out to our letter X here, with a 5 that you just don't see anymore, went up here. And let me zoom in on it. You can't even really see it because there's so many earthquakes there. X marks the spot hit as well. So both X's were hit, and that followed the spread that went across Europe. Again, you'd have to go back and watch my update from 2 days ago. My update from 2 days ago, I was talking about a 4.7 here in Algeria and a 4-point-something up here in Poland. And I said, we have to watch out to the Azores and watch out to Iceland. And Iceland was already moving, but Iceland continues to move because the second push came around. And the energy went out to the Azores and struck with a 5 out here where the plate boundary meets, like a T intersection in a road. And that's exactly what happened. Africa moved a day and a half ago with about the same size movement that was going on in the Mideast. Now we're sitting here high and dry with no new earthquake activity. I would think a new push is coming out of Indonesia right now. You can see it. New line of earthquakes coming out of Indonesia. You know what? At this point, we should probably go check the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. See if there's anything going on with the volcanoes. Okay, Sanjay in Ecuador. Fuego in Guatemala. Ducono in Indonesia. Popocatépetl in Mexico. I'm reading each one as we're going along here, but doesn't look like any big blasts are taking place, but it's all of our usual suspects. The only new one that's added to the list is Raung. Pacayas in Guatemala. It's not always on there. It maybe appears every few months on the list. Raung was the new addition, though, in the past few weeks. Ebico in Kuril Islands. Pacaya again, Suwanee, Zajima in South Japan. That gets us into yesterday. So I'm not seeing a huge amount of eruptive activity. And with the deep earthquakes taking place, that's kind of odd. We're expecting large earthquake activity. We haven't seen any large earthquake activity above 7.3. So no 8s or upper 8s. Additionally, we've seen a bunch of deep earthquakes, but no shallower, larger movement yet. And again, that stair-step pattern coming up from deep down below and going up to the surface, that's happening on one side of the Indo-Australian plate. The other side's compensating all the way up to Japan. Again, it's spreading out like an oval shape in both directions and coming back together on the coast of Japan. Meanwhile, it's spreading out south of Australia and southeast of Australia, which again, X marks the spot out in the middle of the South Pacific. Now Central America and South America. Deep earthquake down below South America. So deep earthquakes on one side of the plate, deep earthquakes on the other side of the plate. Something's going on in the South Central Pacific, all the way over to the West Pacific. Again, you can see it here. That's taking place in the last 48 hours. Over to the east, a spread going down and around South America. 4.4, 4.8, 4.6, making that bend around the plate. And look what happened up to the north. 4.4 to 4.6. So same-sized activity going to the north and to the south. And in the middle, that hammering action again taking place. That hammering action coming up from down below the plates. Which, again, I think is being caused by VLF, or very low frequency, or ultra low frequency, coming up from the mantle, which itself is coming up through the core, which the core is not a solid ball of metal. It's a vibrating bass drum of plasma ball energy, generating that VLF, the same way that HAARP generates VLF up in the upper ionosphere using high frequency. How can high frequency generate VLF, very low frequency? Well, they first create a giant plasma ball in the upper atmosphere, and it vibrates like a bass drum. It's kilometers wide, and when it vibrates, it produces VLF. They use the high frequency from radio waves to pulse an area up in the ionosphere to create this air glow that's like the northern lights. And it generates VLF. Well, I think Mother Nature's doing that down in the core of the Earth, and it's much bigger. And then it emanates out and up, and when that happens, if it focuses in on a certain spot, we get our deep earthquakes hammering in, which then comes up through the plate, spreads out through the plate, and let me get another window open here. Spreads out through the plate, following the plate boundaries, the red lines. Okay, so same-sized activity going down around South America and going up to at least central South America at the Chile-Argentina border region. Look at this. Look what goes down and around South America. The red lines. And look what's right in the middle of the plate here. Again, this is like the middle fulcrum point or the balance point if we're balancing to the south and to the north. Okay, and that's exactly what's going on. To the north, we don't have anything, so we're out of balance. To the south, we're moving. To the north, hush, hush. We go back to the start of the week, though. Well, actually, 7 days ago was our last earthquake down here in Peru. So we are way out of balance. I would expect compensation to take place. If we're moving all the way down to South Sandwich, we're moving to central Chile and North Chile, I would think the north side of here up at Ecuador, the Ecuador, Venezuela, Colombia border region here, or actually no, Ecuador, Peru, Colombia. Venezuela's over here on the east side. I would look in the middle. Let's just watch at Ecuador. The middle point between our earthquakes coming out of Central America and our earthquakes down here to the south. That halfway point if we go around the bend of the plate. Or just following the red lines here on the USGS map. Following around here. If we have earthquakes down here and we have earthquakes up here, that halfway point around that bend, right in that middle point, North Peru, Ecuador. Now, I would think the combined total of everything to the south and to the north, like this was a two-arm scale now, would weigh in the middle with the combined total. So if we have 4s to the north and 4s to the south with a deep earthquake, that means 5s or greater coming in the middle. Again, the combined power on both sides. And it really is not too weird to think that because the rest of the planet is all moving on the same basis. 4.9, 4.9, 4.9, 5.1, 5.1, 5.1, 5.2, 5.2, 5.2, and 5.3, 5.5, and 5.6. Clusters of the same-sized earthquake spreading out across an area. So I wouldn't be surprised if that same-sized energy accumulated in the middle in between these two. Again, at the Peru-Ecuador border region. Central America started to move, going up into Mexico. And we have an earthquake of 4.0 up here in northwest Mexico. 4.1 down here to the south of Mexico. And then another 4.6, the biggest of the bunch, in the middle of it all. And that's right at the Guatemala border region. Pacaya volcano is erupting here in Guatemala. We just saw it on the list. Look what else is there in Guatemala. Well, first of all, the earthquakes. But secondly, the volcanoes erupting. And thirdly, over to the east, well, this is where the plate boundaries converge. Come right across and meet in. I will think that in the middle point between these two sets of quakes, we will see a new earthquake that's bigger than what's on both sides. 4.6 and 4.1 on one side, a 4.0 on the other. We're getting towards upper 5 level, or upper 4 level to near 5.0. Now, guess what happened? Somebody contacted me yesterday, I don't know who made the post in the chat room, saying something about Colima volcano coming back alive. Now, I didn't see it on the list, did you? I saw Popocatépetl, which is over here on the east side where the other letter V is. But Colima, we haven't heard from that in a long time. So Colima suddenly is being talked about. And, well, look, it's the halfway point between our current sets of earthquakes. I'm going to watch right on the pinnacle tip here. Southern part of the Gulf of California, going down to Colima, this middle point should break. And it should be bigger than what's on both sides. Again, upper 4 to low 5. Same with down to the south, where all the rings overlap. Let's just go ahead and warn right now, going into El Salvador. Let the people in El Salvador know something 5.0 plus is incoming in the next few days. It's got to fill in the middle points at all these spots. Now, speaking of middle points, let's get into the United States, Alaska, and Hawaii. And I will not forget Hawaii this time, guys. In my last update, I said I was going to cover Hawaii, and I just spaced it. But first, let's talk about Alaska. 5.0 activity, 5.3, Anchorage directly. Directly at Anchorage. This little bay or harbor is Anchorage. Anchorage is on the south side. Felt all the way across the area from what I understand. But are we shocked? I'm not. Look. An equal spread of the same sized earthquakes. We've already been talking about it. And the size was 5.3, right? Wait, did we get a new 5.8? We did? We got a new 5.8 down here. How did I miss that? That struck last night? Man, I'm slacking. I thought it was just a 5.3. Old man needs glasses. That 3 looks like an 8. Okay. Anchorage getting hit by the same size going around the plate. Again, it's 5.3 plus a bunch of other activity. But let me show you where Anchorage really is. Right off the plate boundary here. So the red line is the plate boundary that goes down and around into the United States and the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. But the earthquake struck up here. This is like a ramp that the earthquakes go up and jump off into the plate. The North American Craton, Laurentia, North America, Canada, United States, Mexico. That edge of the plate absorbs the energy as it comes in from the northwest. So a 5 point whatever there, 5.3, keeps in line with the rest of the plate. Again, coast of Japan, West Pacific, all the way down south of Australia, all the way southeast of Australia. Again, it's all about the same size, 5.2, 5.3, 5.6. So going up into Alaska. Then, equally spaced earthquakes going down across the United States and across the edge of the North American Craton. And look at these 4s. Look at the spacing on this. Again, even the untrained eye should be able to see the spacing on the larger earthquakes spreading out across a vast distance is doing this. Like a standing wave in a tank. And we're getting the same sized earthquakes as more amplitude is pumped into the tank. And how do you pump amplitude into this? You move the walls back and forth towards each other and away from each other in the closed container. But we're not dealing with a liquid. In a closed, perfect, square container, we're dealing with some kind of moving seismic force, some kind of large wave, long wave, VLF, I think. Could be ultra low frequency. But it's passing through these areas, and it's dropping off earthquakes all the way along the way. From Alaska, all the way down the coast of the United States. And this happens all over the entire planet this way, so it's not like this is some rare event just for over here for us. 5.3, 4, 4, 4, 4, down the entire perimeter edge of Laurentia itself. And on the other side of Laurentia, there's our 5.2 to 5.3. I mean, how much more do you need? 5.2 to 5.3 all the way around the north side of the planet this time. And just a few days ago, we were dealing with 5.2s and 5.3s around the south side of the planet. And that was the subject of my discussion in my last video, which you can still see a few of those, several of them actually, on here. And what did I say actually in my last update? I said the only thing missing was a new earthquake over here, filling in this side, letting us know that the entire area around Antarctica was shifting. That just happened, by the way. That's what the new earthquake is down. The 5.3 and 5.8. Now it's happening on the north side of the planet. So 4 is going down the coast of Laurentia, North America, down across Mexico, down into South Mexico. Now Hawaii, nestled out here right in the middle of the whole hot mess, started to swarm out again. A new little outbreak of earthquakes. It's not major, the number of earthquakes, but I want you to see where they're happening. First of all, earthquakes at Kilauea technically stopped over the past few days. This is 0.0 and greater. Let's let this refresh just to make sure. This is from the USGS. 48 hours. Here we go. We have to go back like 4 days, 3 to 4 days, and we have a 0.7 right in the middle where Kilauea in the Middle East Rift Zone is. The rest of the earthquakes, all the way around the outside edge of Hawaii. and I'm not exaggerating, we're all the way even going out into the ocean west of the Big Island. Do you see that? North side, west side, east side. East side, 2.5. North side, 2.4. West side, 3.8. Almost a 4 out there all the way in the ocean, several hundred miles off the coast. The other predominance of the activity is at Mauna Loa. Mauna Loa is the big volcano here, this big brown splotch on the map. Let's go over and look on Google Earth. Take a look at it this way. There it is, Mauna Loa. And the earthquakes are striking all the way around it now, and it's starting to carry on for an extended period of time. That to me says something's going on in Mauna Loa now. But we shouldn't be shocked because Kilauea collapsed, then refilled, then erupted. So what could cause a disturbance to go all the way around the outside edge of the island, on all perimeters, north, south, east, west, and focus in on Mauna Loa? Well, let's get over and look at Google Earth and explain it this way. First of all, we have to turn this sideways and look at a side profile of the Big Island and zoom in really close. There we go. That's probably a good view right there. So there's Mauna Loa and a bunch of earthquakes going all the way around it. It's up at the highest point one of the highest points in Hawaii. It's also the biggest shield volcano on the planet, on the surface of the planet, not counting undersea volcanoes. But the Middle East Rift Zone is this, and Kilauea is where that little red triangle is, right here at the base of Mauna Loa. Now, it stopped showing seismic. Meanwhile, seismic activity is going all the way down the coast and around the whole Big Island itself. Well, if this is inflating, which we know it is, or was, the lava lake is still filling, and this volcano next to it starts to really swarm out with earthquakes, and then earthquakes pop off all the way around the Big Island, that to me says it's still charging, and it doesn't have anywhere to go. The magma. But it's charging into many locations then, not just Kilauea. It's gone seismically silent at Kilauea. It's reaching out to other weak points that it can find. Does that mean eruption is going to take place? I don't know. Don't have prior examples to go on this. Let's go look up the 3.8 out in the ocean, see what's way far to the west out in the Big Island. Again, far out in the ocean. Inquiring minds want to know. So do I. So let's just go take a look. Is there anything there? Wow. Hey, look. Okay, now these are all undersea mounts. Do you see how they're cone shape? This one is about 1,000 feet tall, that right there. And all of these are little small undersea mounts, little eruptive points in the past. But this is the marked volcanic field from the Smithsonian. And what's it called? Mahukona. The Pleistocene Mahukona Seamount lies between the islands of Hawaii and Kahului, northwest of Hualalai volcano. The distinct cone is about 4 kilometers in diameter. That's just one cone. There's many others. You see how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's just as big. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then there's hundreds of small undersea mounts there. Definitely related to volcanism. And that's where the big earthquake is. And again, it's a near 4.0. So all the way around the Big Island with a preference on the western side. And it's also preferencing to the western side of Mauna Loa. Again, on the western side, northwest side of the big brown splotch. So what could cause it all? Magma intrusion. It's got to be. And where's it coming from? Well, overall, we look at the whole planet and the deep earthquakes and the spread of seismic going around the Pacific plate. There has been an increase up here in the Northeast Pacific. Go back to last week and watch my update from last week, like 7 or 8 days ago. And in that update, I was talking about how the United States didn't have anything up here. And how the North and Northeast Pacific had gone quiet compared to the rest of the planet. And there were no 5.0 earthquakes in Alaska, United States, or Mexico. That's all changed. In the last week, the Northeast Pacific started to compensate. And it went all the way across. The only spot now missing is Mexico, which is why I issued the new warning right here in Mexico to fill in this open area. But look where the rings overlap for the other earthquakes now. where the rings overlap on Vancouver Island. The rings also overlap, like I said, in Mexico. But taking it down just one step to 4.0, you can see that middle point was actually filled in. Isn't that a perfect distribution? This isn't me doing anything with the rings. Again, I can just turn the rings off. You should still be able to see. That's a perfect middle point that was just filled in by that new 4 today in between our two pink-colored previous earthquakes from the past few days. But now the halfway point of the halfway points are going to get hit, the quarter points. Thus the warning for here, and look where the other quarter point is. Let's let this refresh. The halfway point of the, since this has now cut the area in half, right? Between the red to the south and the red to the north, if we go down and around the bend, that is the halfway point. Just struck today. Now there's two new halfway points that are formed because the halfway point was put in there. I call them quarter points now, right? When you cut a half in half, it turns it into a quarter. So the quarter point is down here where the letter V is, Colima volcano showing activity. And the quarter point is in Southern California. That's what it is. Now look at the 3s. The 3s really fill in the areas in between the 4s. So the 3s are just the stepping stone paths. Same thing's going on though. And this is 7 days. Let's just look at 48 hours. Do you see how the middle point between this 4 and this 4 has all these 3s? It's not a coincidence. And if we look at the 2s, you'll see the 2s fill in the middle points between the 3s. No exaggeration. So let's go look at the last 24 hours worth of earthquakes. Oh, and with Hawaii, let me just wrap it up this way. I don't know what to tell you. I'm watching it every day. I don't trust the tilt meters and sulfur dioxide readings anymore. Since that last blast that you had, there were no tilt meter or sulfur dioxide anomalies reported to us to let us know anything was going on. So I can't trust the tilt meters and sulfur dioxide readings to indicate that there's going to be an eruption. We have to look at the seismic that comes out of that. And that's what we're watching now in Hawaii. Watch along with me. It's going to Mauna Loa. It's going out in the ocean. Something's going on around the Big Island related to Kilauea, but it means something else is going to happen. Either seismic release at one of the other volcanoes or possibly some kind of eruptive activity at one of the other volcanoes in Hawaii. Keep watch. So, 24 hours. Let's make sure we've got the 24-hour earthquake feed turned on. This is now just literally the last day's worth of earthquakes as reported by the USGS. And I've got some significant things to show you that we don't normally have to talk about. The Arizona, New Mexico border region, there was a volcano that was hit today by a rare earthquake. Southeast of York, Arizona. Now there's a funny story attached to this volcano. Several years ago, an earthquake swarm going up to 5.0 struck next to what I'm about to show you. Right here. Okay, and I zoomed in on this right here. Let me get a side view on it. There we go. Okay, earthquake swarm broke out right next to this thing. And they have a radio tower built up on top of it, but it is an old volcano. I had to go do a lot of research to find out. It's got a lava flow that comes off it. It's kind of hard to see. Weathered. Goes down to about here. But when the earthquake swarm struck, a guy who claimed to be from the American Geophysical... And here's the Smithsonian on the Geronimo Volcanic Field that this is part of. Geronimo Volcanic Field contains over 140 eruptive centers, mostly pyroclastic cones, in an area of 850 square kilometers. Okay, so earthquake strikes here, rare. I make a video showing this, because again, this was where the earthquake struck, and it's an old volcano. And you can see the other volcanoes here, over to the east, these black splotches. Okay, a guy from the American Geophysical Union, who has a channel called Space Weather, made a video accusing me of lying and saying that there were no volcanoes here at all and that I needed to relearn geology and geophysics and that if there was any volcanoes there that the USGS would tell us and that I just didn't know what I was talking about, right? Well, he didn't have actually, to his credit, the USGS had not uploaded, or maybe it was the Smithsonian, had not uploaded the information about the Geronimo Volcanic Field to Google Earth. But I was able to find it through maybe a day and a half worth of searching online, so I don't know why this American Geophysical Union guy couldn't find it or didn't find it. He just didn't look, right? But this is a volcanic field that's getting hit. And it's a rare earthquake that hardly ever happens. Maybe once or twice a year, you might get earthquake activity out here. So why is it going on? Well, for the same reason, we're getting a 2.9 down at the pumping operations at the... Wait, actually, hold on. Let's go take a look down in Texas. We are right on the border. There might not be pumping here. There might be something else. But for the same reason we're moving down in Texas is the same reason we're moving at the Geronimo Volcanic Field. Weak points going across the edge of the North American plate. So where are our nearest wells? Oh, yeah, okay. Never mind. We've got a boatload of wells and roads, but boatload of wells all the way along through here. You can see how many different drill points there are. Oh, wait, this one's just a cleared pad. Hold on. There we go. Here's our tanks and our pumps and our jacks and our pipelines. And it's a lot of drilling going right down to the border. Again, every one of these little white pads is a different oil or gas well. This one really shows it. You can see the shadow of the jacks. There's 2 drill points there on that pad alone. Okay, have to check. Again, sometimes there's volcanoes at these locations. But 2.8 at a volcanic field, 2.9 down at a drill point, and 2.6 back at a drill point, all along the edge of the craton. There is no disputing that. Coming out of New Mexico, going down across into Texas. Going back up into Oklahoma and back over to Virginia, no less. Again, the edge of the craton being displaced. Now, a lot of people felt this one last night, 3.7 to near 4.0 earthquake. Only 11 felt reports. USGS is really cherry-picking what they want to allow for felt reports, I guess. More than 11 people felt this, guys. 11 people in my chat room felt it. They were talking about it last night. Okay, here's the earthquake epicenter. And we're right next to the high-voltage power lines that go into the quarry. But the earthquake is not due to the quarry. It's down. How far down? A few kilometers down. 10-kilometer auto-generated depth. So 4.0 earthquake. Several kilometers down below central Idaho, the magma chamber for Yellowstone extends from Yellowstone National Park here at the Wyoming border. Goes down below Idaho. This is above the deepest part of the center of the magma chamber for Yellowstone in Idaho. Goes down at an angle 30 kilometers or more down and over all the way to the feeder for Yellowstone. Comes in from below Oregon. They measured all this with VLF, very low frequency earth penetrating tomography. And they found out, again, the feeder for Yellowstone comes in from below Oregon, where the center of the magma chamber is below Idaho, and the top of the magma chamber comes up into Wyoming, where the park is. Amazing, right? 24 hours worth of earthquakes. I'm not seeing anything up here in the Northwest. Not even a microquake. Wait a second. 1 day feed, 0.0, apply. Let's just make sure. USGS. Okay, so we got a 4 over here at Yellowstone, basically, and we got a 4 out here in the ocean. What do the two have in common? Well, they have 2 things in common. One, they're the same size, 4 and 4. Well, 3.7 and 4.1 or whatever, but they're parallel to each other. And this is like an arrow on the Juan de Fuca pointing into the plate that's shifting. So 4 out here, 4 over here. This is the Juan de Fuca fracture zone out in the ocean. This is supposedly the Cascadia subduction zone. But we're moving on both sides, both perimeters. Again, the perimeter to the east is the Craton Edge. Look at it. Look at Idaho. The perimeter to the west is out in the ocean where the red jagged line is. Both have 4s on them. Energy's coming in. But why? Let's go over and look at the tremor map. These are the little tremors that get reported. In this case, yesterday, 8 small tremors at the California-Oregon border. That's it. Go back a day to the 25th. 79. Mostly in Oregon, with just a few in the north part of the Valley of California. 24th, back another day, 0. 23rd, 136. So we're going in spurts or clusters. And look where the spurts and clusters are taking place. Southwest Oregon, Northern California right now. 1 day skipped, 24th, 25th, back there. 26th yesterday, still there. So what is going on? Well, this is the southern arm of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. This is the arrow pointing into the spot that's shifting. And we got a 4 right on the backside. Guess what's at that 4 location out in the ocean? Volcano. Let me show it to you. Volcanoes, plural. Right in the middle of this, the East Blanco Depression. East Blanco Depression, the EBD, is a pull-apart basin within the Western Blanco Transform Fault Zone. Really complex sounding. Let me just zoom in and show you the lines of volcanoes. This is an undersea mount, this is an undersea mount, this is an undersea mount. These are all volcanoes. Here's a whole line of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 volcanoes, or 9. 9 in a row right there. That's just one line of them. And these actually make up a good portion of the ridges themselves. So if you zoom in really close, you'll start to make out there's hundreds, if not thousands, of smaller cones or undersea mounts, undersea volcanoes that make up these segments, where the bigger ones are jumping out of the smaller ones. They just pile up on top of each other. They're undersea. But, okay, so no earthquakes in the middle of here. It's like a sandwich right now, where the bread on both sides is 4s. The middle, where the meat is, we don't have anything going on except for some shifting taking place. Meanwhile, the shift area to the south has increased in the number of earthquakes, but the creeping section of the San Andreas, hush, hush, gone quiet. Or I should say, hush, hush, it's gone quiet. It's gone completely quiet. Look, the creeping section of the San Andreas. Meanwhile, the California-Nevada border lit up. So what's going on? Energy is going down and around the creeping section of the San Andreas. This is locked and loaded. There's something building on the creeping section of the San Andreas right now, going down, again, blocking the flow, putting the flow over and around over to the east, which then put a 2.9, at a spot that I have to show you. But first, before I show you that 2.9, let me build up to it with bookends of 0.9 and 1.9. Again, like books on a shelf, bookends on a shelf. And in the middle, a cluster of quakes. Cluster of quakes at Clear Lake Volcano, the geysers of California, where they drilled into Clear Lake Volcano to get steam. And if you don't know about Clear Lake, let me just show it to you. Picture speaks 1,000 words, always. There's Clear Lake. There's the Smithsonian place mark for it. Hit pause and read it if you need to. It's just, let me sum it up. Really old volcanic caldera that humans have drilled into to get steam, to turn these turbines to provide power to the area. And there's a bunch of turbines all over the place and a bunch of pipelines that go to drill points. And lo and behold, it is on the edge of the plate boundary. This thick red line. This is the San Andreas. Here's where the volcano in Clear Lake is. Here's where all the geothermal drilling is. So a swarm of quakes here, another quake up here to the north, another quake down here to the south. Bookends. The middle point being the bigger move point. 2.0 striking up here on the northeast side of the state, Chester, California, and there's a volcano here called Mount Lassen. Mount Lassen erupted 100 years ago, but let me show it to you. There's the earthquake epicenter. This is Mount Lassen, stratovolcano. Earthquake epicenter, stratovolcano. Right next to each other. Anytime it's close to a stratovolcano, I relate it to it. Even though Ditmar and Mount Harkness are closer, this is the younger and bigger volcano 14 miles away. I always look 40 miles, because magma chambers can shift or be as big as that, but they can shift that far as well. The volcano staying somewhat in the same spot on the surface, and then down below we have movement. Okay, now, California-Nevada border. Series of earthquakes going up to 3.0. I said I need to show you what's there. Let's get the coordinates from the good old USGS. When I show you what's here on the east side of the Valley of California, Sacramento Valley basically, going down to the south, what would you do if I told you professionals missed that there's a magma intrusion point in the valley that's causing a bunch of fires to break out over here every year for God knows how long, as long as these volcanoes have been around. Now, what's intruding? Where's the magma intruding? How do I know magma is intruding? Let me show you what I found. For instance, this. This is a bulge. We go from 500 feet over here, and we bulge up to 1,800 feet, and then we go back down to 900 feet on this side. So 500 feet, 900 feet, 1,800 feet in the middle. And let me rotate it for you so you can really see this thing. Okay. A bulging laccolith in the middle of this. Laccolith is a point in the plate where magma comes in and bulges. We are right next to a bunch of volcanic fields. This, for instance, is a caldera made of volcanoes, and it too has a laccolith on the side of it, a round bulging feature that comes out the side as magma intrudes into this and pushes it up but never erupts. But there are other eruptive points, Monash Mountain and Templeton Mountain, for instance. This and this, two of the same size and shape on Brown Mountain, and then here's two of the same size and shape, Golden Trout Creek and Red Hill. Do you see that? And they make a crescent shape that goes down and connects to this laccolith. It's a half of a circle, right? And then on the other side, we have another Soda Butte that finishes it, that makes a caldera. So here's another one up here to the north. This is a confirmed caldera. This is Long Valley Caldera, well-known supervolcano, 1,000 cubic kilometers of intrusion melt down below, and volcanoes around the outside edge of it. And this thing's pretty much between the two, wouldn't you say? Between this one and this one. That's where this bulging laccolith is right here. But there's others. So that's not the only one. Let me show you the next. Let me find it. I should have marked these. I just found these visually as I was inspecting the area. Here. This one right here. So this one right here, again, does the same thing. We are at an elevation of 500 to 600 feet on this side. And we go over here and we have an elevation of, let's wait for it, 1,100 or 1,200 feet. And in the middle, 1,800 to 1,900 feet again. So just like the one to the south, 1,800 to 1,900 feet and bulging in the middle, this thing. This one bulging in the middle to 1,800 to 1,900 feet, and the size of it too. Let's get a measurement on this just so we can compare. The size from here to here, across this, in miles. Let's just say 8 miles, 8 or 9 miles. And we go up to the north, and the other bulge is right here. It looks a little bit bigger. It's about 10 miles. 9 or 10 miles across. So they're about the same size here and here. Bulging laccoliths in the plate. Now, Shaver Lake is a location that's right in here. That's right here. This is Shaver Lake. And on the side of Shaver Lake, we have another bulging laccolith that comes out. This is more like something you'd see in Iran bulging out. But let me show it to you. Shaver Lake's up at the top of this thing, by the way. Whoops. Shaver Lake is at the top of this bulging laccolith. There's Shaver Lake, and you can see it flowing out. This is not foothills, this is circular shape. Going around the outside edge and going down. And that's not a landslide either. I can show you. You want me to show you the similar shape in Iran to prove it to you? Here. Just remember this shape. Well, here. Remember this, how it's like bulged up almost like a river or something. It looks like a landslide, doesn't it? So let's go over to Iran. A world away. Here's Iran, going down to South Iran. And it's not covered in trees, but it's doing the same thing. Do you see that? Again, that's a bulging laccolith that actually ruptured. Let me turn it at a side angle. There we go. Imagine Shaver Lake up on the top of this thing. And covered in trees, of course. But you see it, right? Do you see that how that fans out and it piles up in accretionary ripples, if you will, where the flow was taking place. And then we go back to California. Go back to California. And we zoom in on the spot. Right down here. Shaver Lake. There it is. Same shape, same everything. It's just covered in trees, and it goes back up to where the bulging laccolith apparently ruptured a long time ago. So, one more time. We got a giant ring bulge here. We have another giant ring bulge here. Both are going up to about 1,800 feet and spreading out about 8 to 10 miles. And then in between them, we have Shaver Lake where the fire broke out. And that's where their new earthquake is. 2.9. Near 3.0. It's pretty much one of the largest earthquakes in the state for today so far. Now going across over here, across the border, the supervolcano had a whole bunch of seismic activity a couple days ago. And now it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 earthquakes compared to dozens and dozens where we were a couple days ago. So at 2.9, 3.0, sneaking its way out into the valley. That means down to the south, we have to keep watch. And that's where the warning is. That's where the halfway point is. That's like the spot that I showed 3 times in this update already, where all the rings overlap, Southern California. Bay Area did not get hit this past week. But then again, the flow coming down the creeping section of the San Andreas, I don't have any earthquakes to show you. None. The flow has been cut off along the coast, which means something's building. Meanwhile, the volcanoes are getting hit, and we have 4.0 activity on both sides of the Cascadia subduction zone. Ridgecrest, California, I had people come in a night ago and say, hey, I felt that. Turned out it was like a 3. A 3 down here in Owens Valley going down into Ridgecrest, California. Basically, these thin red lines. Here's one right there, 3.1. That was last night. That's what it was. So a line of quakes going down into Owens Valley and Ridgecrest. Do I need to show you what's there? Longtime viewers already know. New viewers need to see it. Going from right here at Coso Volcanic Field in a diagonal line all the way down to Black Mountains and Lava Mountains Volcanic Field. That line of quakes right here. That goes across China Lake. These are all lava flows and volcanoes. So it's just like the rest of the state. The volcanoes are getting hit, but they're just a sign. They're just the weak points. The energy that's flowing across is all in the 3.0 range right now. But we think it's going to go up. I think it's going to go up a full magnitude. We should see at least upper 4s. But I struck out last week on the Bay Area completely. Instead, it looks like it's shifting south, which means Southern California then will get the full brunt of this instead of the Bay Area. And it still means the same size. Look, the size we're looking for is the size that's going around the rest of the planet, which right now is all 5s. 5s, 5.5, 5.2, 5.3. Okay. And Southern California. Let's get all the way down here into Southern California. Go look up the earthquakes that struck today. North LA. These 2 spots, one is on a fault, the other is next to a drill point. They're 2 of the same size quakes, though. Let me prove this to you. Chatsworth, California, sailed by. Yeah, I'm from Chatsworth. My name's Blaine. This is my wife, Blair, and our kid, Blake. And we all... Blaine, Blair, and Blake, we all live here in Chatsworth. I sailed by. Let's put the coordinates in. You like that? Somebody's like, hey, my name's Blair. Hey, my name's Blaine. Hey, my name's Blake. Don't make fun of me. Hey, my middle name's Yuri. Try that one on for size. Imagine what people say to you all your life. Yes, that is my middle name. I'm Russian. Yeah, нет. Yes, Russian. Здравствуйте, как вы позовите? My name is Mikhail Ilyanich. Look where we are. We're at the Aliso Canyon. Ah, this place, man. Man, I'll tell you what. This is where I really pissed off the professionals. Several years ago, I'm going to tell the story again. I tell the story every time an earthquake strikes here. For all the new people, several years ago, there was an earthquake swarm that broke out leading over to this. So at first it started out over the west. The earthquake swarm struck starting over here at these oil wells. And that led me to make some videos because I cover this stuff whenever there's earthquakes at oil wells and pumping operations. So I showed it and I said, look, earthquakes are striking there. And professionals came out and tried to deny the relation between the oil pumping operations here and the earthquakes. They said, well, and this is, I think, Dr. Lucy Jones. She didn't address me directly. She didn't say the name Dutch. Then she said there was chatter online. Anyway, I was the only one talking about it. And it was a series of like zeros, ones, and twos that were striking down below the pumping operation. So they're drilling in up on top, down a few thousand feet. And then down below that, a bunch of earthquakes started to strike. And so I made a relation between the two. I said, look, it's like a perforation in a piece of stone, apparently. All you have to do is score the surface. And when Mother Nature pushes on the plate, seems to seek out these weak points. It's not that controversial to think that. Well, they had a problem with it and said there was no relation. Then the earthquake started to go over to the east. Leave this pumping operation, start to head over to these. And I made another series of videos. This is over the course of about a week. And I said, look, the pumping operations are starting to move, or maybe they're shifting. A seismic shift is taking place. And again, the professionals came out and said there was no relation between the pumping operations and the earthquakes. And their explanation this time was, again, it was too far apart that, again, the earthquakes are happening down below, and we're not drilling down that far, so they can't be related. That's what Lucy Jones basically said. Then, all of a sudden, this place blew up. They store gas here, too. They don't just extract it. They store it in these, I guess, caves, or maybe it's like a gas dome kind of thing, but they store it down in the ground here. Hundreds of thousands of cubic square feet of gas stored there. And it blew up and released the gas out into the environment. And hundreds of thousands of people out here got an emergency evacuation order because whatever was in the gas caused instant nosebleed with something caustic was in the gas. And it caused instant nosebleeds for anybody who inhaled even just a little bit. And so people were getting instant nosebleeds. They had to evacuate the area, and it took weeks and weeks of evacuation before it even stopped degassing. Then the professionals came out and said it was just chance. And that it was just a failure of such and such, such and such, and nothing related. Well, here we are now. Another series of earthquakes have keep going up to this thing over the past few weeks. Are we going to continue to ignore it? I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to keep talking about it, but is anybody else going to pay attention to it? Are we going to deny it, professionals? Maybe you got a team of crack scientists on it. Or maybe you got a team of scientists on crack. There's the plate boundary. And it's the red line again, but that's the San Andreas. I'm going to turn on the fault zones, and you're going to see a bunch of thin red lines appear. The thick red line is where we'd expect the plate to start shifting. But the thin red lines are like shortcuts for the energy to take. And look, going around Salton Sea, the predominance of the quakes going down on the western side of Salton Sea. But a new change has started in the past 2 days. A series of earthquakes going around the eastern side of Salton Sea. We're normally on the western side, and we have a line of quakes all about the same size in the 1 and 2.0 range, reaching down to a cluster. 2 clusters, really. One at the border, one at Salton Sea. So what's going on there? Well, let me show it to you this way. The 3 sets of red lines here. One set of red lines goes around Salton Sea to the east. That's the San Andreas, an imperial fault. The other 2 thinner sets, this is the San Jacinto and the Elsinore. So a beeline is what the energy normally takes. A straight path of least resistance. So it'll come down the San Andreas and just go down these and continue on down into Mexico. The flow. Now, if a big push comes through, I think of it more like a flowing river. That normally the river would come down and just take the path of least resistance on the western side of Salton Sea on these 2 open pathways, if you will. But if a big flow comes down and saturates all 3 prongs of this, and you see a line of earthquakes go around the outside edge this way, over to the east, that means a lot of energy is coming in. Well, we know a lot of energy just came in because 3s went all the way down along the coast, or all the way down along the California-Nevada border. So 3s went down as far south as Southern California. And it spread out across the whole LA basin and then reconvened back at the southern tip of Salton Sea and right down at the border. Guess what's at the southern tip of Salton Sea, where it's reconvening? Well, first of all, there were hot spots here. In my last update, the computer was detecting hotspots at this volcano that's been drilled into, where they have geothermal drill points, steam points. So the computer is detecting the steam, there's no doubt about that. It just doesn't know what to make of it. They're still there from a couple days ago, the hotspots, marked by the GOES weather satellite. But there are the Salton Buttes, marked by the Smithsonian. And on the side of the Salton Buttes are all these geothermal turbines where they're releasing a boatload of steam. Here on this photo, you can even see it. So apparently there was a big outgassing of steam down here. Here's another set of geothermal turbines right there. And the computer and GOES satellite picked it up as a hot heat signature, which then was registered. But what's causing the overgassing there? Well, I mean, come on, we are on the San Andreas directly. That's again where the thick red line is down here at the south tip of the Salton Sea. So it wouldn't be a surprise if the plate is shifting and we see some heat release. How about down at the border though? What's down there? Ocotillo, California. How about a large amount of electrical generation? And I mean a lot. Solar fields, where they used to do farming and now they've replaced the farming with solar. And I'm not exaggerating. That's what all these are right here. These are solar farm fields. Amazing, right? It just keeps going and going and going. They're replacing regular farming with solar farming. So, major electrical generation here, and going down to the south, all of these. This. These are, each one of these is a standard farmer's field size, one of these squares. And then you see how many squares make up each greater plot and how many greater plots there are. All power generation. Now, right here, geothermal, where humans have drilled in to get steam from the magma, the red hot burning magma down below. Let's recap. I would think, oh, look, a new earthquake just struck here at south of the Bay Area. Creeping section of the San Andreas north side, 1.3. We'll have to wait and see, man. If this starts to break, it might go quick. We might see a bunch of smaller earthquakes or a single large earthquake break out here. I don't think we have to wait too long. This isn't like we have to wait weeks and weeks. Alaska's moving, 5's going off across the plate, 4's striking out in the ocean. The only thing that I'm shocked about really is oh hey, Aussies, the middle of your plate just got hit down here in Adelaide. What do you know? 2.6. Yeah, you're moving across the center. It's just southeast of where I'm looking. But there it is. How about that? What else happened? Oh, a new 5.3. When did this happen? 5.6 to 5.3 at 2014. Less than an hour ago. The middle point has been filled in at the surface. Look at that. The middle point between our two deep earthquakes has been filled in right along the plate boundary with a new 5.3. Gee, are we shocked at the 5.3s? How many 5.3s am I going to talk about in this update today? What does that mean, though, all those 5.3s? It means something has displaced the whole freaking planet on a 5.3 basis in a day. From Alaska to Iceland, or from Iceland to Alaska to New Zealand. It's amazing. The only thing that's missing now is there is in between these areas to get hit with something bigger. So that's what we're watching for. And we didn't see it over here in the West Pacific yet. That's where we're down to the last day. The warning expires tomorrow night, really the 28th. It's almost the 28th now internationally. So we're down to the last day on the warning. Please keep watch, have an earthquake plan. Do not dismiss the seismic spread that's taking place. It's like the weather. You wouldn't ignore a big storm coming at you. You'd at least pay attention to it. If you see dark clouds on the horizon, you know to expect some lightning flashing, thunder in the distance. You know there's some severe weather around you somewhere. So it's kind of like that. We're watching this go and spread out across vast areas. And here's the new hammering action coming in underneath the plate. And now all of a sudden a 5.6 strikes right, a 5.3 and 5.6 strikes right, or 5.6 strikes next to it. Right in the middle point between the previous sets that I was talking about at the start of this update. It's amazing. So anyway, you need to have an earthquake plan and at least know what to do when an earthquake strikes. Take shelter underneath a table or a desk. It's a no-brainer. You take shelter. Preferably underneath a wooden or metal table or desk. Don't get underneath a glass table or desk. Right? And then you need to have an emergency kit. The emergency kit will have a change of clothes and a set of shoes and flashlight and batteries and first aid kit and sanitation. You can also have food and water for a few days. These are all things you're supposed to have in your house already, aren't you? I mean, at least with the food, water, clothes, and batteries and first aid, you're supposed to have that stuff. Put it into a bag or a kit that you can easily grab at a moment's notice. And then that way, after the earthquake ends, you can immediately go grab that bag. Or if you're going outside, let's say you're in a structure that's heavily damaged from an earthquake and you can't stay inside after the quake's over, well, you would need to immediately go outside. But if you're going outside, you got to remember what's outside. There could be things still falling outside. There could be gas lines that are broken in the ground, sewers, sinkholes, all kinds of things. Water break, main breaks, those things. You need to know where to go outside and have it pre-designated. And make sure your friends, family, loved ones, even your coworkers, because you got to remember, you might be out and about, you might be at work. Have the emergency plan, at least know what to do. You know, when you go into a building you don't normally go into, a building you're not familiar with, you know you're supposed to look for the exits and figure out where the emergency exits are before you go into that building or if you're going to be in there for a while. Right? That's something you're supposed to do. Well, you would also do that for your workplace and your house and inspect the area, know which exit you're going to go out and where you're going to go outside. All right, you'll come up with good ideas, way better than what I'm coming up with. I'm just trying to get you to do it. I'm just harping on you some more. Old man Dutch getting a little complaining in my old age. To be a Zoomer again. Okay, well, I will be back. Let's check the chat room really quick. See what people are saying. Yes, somebody, Paul Wolfsword said, don't be scared, be prepared. That's what basically he's saying. And I agree, don't be scared. You need to be prepared. Vigilance takes the edge off fear. It doesn't completely remove the shock factor of whatever you're going to go through. So you're going to go through an earthquake, it's still going to be a shocking experience. It's still going to be alarming and stressful. But if you're prepared, that extra panic that you have that when you're not prepared for something is done away with. And that could mean the difference between life and death. So don't be scared, be prepared, and be that bright, shining beacon of hope for all the people around you when it's actually hitting the fan and you're already prepared. That can make a difference for a lot of other people too. The time now is 3:09 p.m. Central Time on the 27th of February 2021, end of the winter. Almost the end of the winter. And man, that groundhog wasn't playing around this year, was he? Yeah, he came out, he said, I'm not playing around this year, guys. 6 more weeks of winter, I'm out of here. Anyway, it's 62 degrees right now here in Missouri. That's a big change. The lake's still frozen over. But yeah, that's going to be melting. We might get a thunderstorm here tonight. I'll keep the camera on, and we'll see if we get anything. But if the storm shows up, we'll catch it on camera live. You can watch. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is recorded live before my Twitch audience. And then we upload it to YouTube and premiere it back and get it out to as many people as possible. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can come over to Twitch and watch this globe spin live with music and several hundred people in the chat room at all times talking. And people share information and get information on the earthquakes before they get reported to the agencies. They're paying attention to the spectros. They're paying attention to every Joe Schmo site out there. It's private seismographs. You know, I got viewers who are watching it all. I imagine some of my viewers probably have like a wall of screens where they've got it all going. They've got more even than me, right? But they're in there 24/7 doing that. And you can watch for free on Twitch. If you want to chat, you got to become a member. But if you want to watch, it's free. So come over and check it out. And then for the people who are on Twitch, thank you. There's so many names. I mean, just everybody from Blue to Paul to just have Kilfan on, all you guys. You have just done so much to help Quake Ninja with all the information sharing. These are all names that people in the chat room will recognize. But I just want to point out that those people make this go forward. I was gone for a full 7 to 10 days with mourning and the loss of our pet, and just I was sick. And this ship kept going. If I'm the captain of the ship, this ship kept going thanks to my first mates, second mates, first-class petty officers, and everybody else. Even the troll Moby Dicks out in the ocean kept the ship moving for the past week, and I appreciate you guys being there for me. All right, peace out, much love. Look out for this as a video on YouTube within the hour.